national concern, and a number of schools across the country have been hit by arson attacks, with stakeholders so far pinning a number of issues to be the cause, from frustration of tough deadlines, COVID-19, learning pressures, to limited resources available for students. The Ministry of Education ordered for students to go on half-term starting this week Friday to try and mitigate on what is going on in the schools. But we now want to focus on the psychosocial welfare of students and what needs to be done to promote their individual wellness. Joining me virtually is Kagondo Jr., who's a counseling psychologist and transformational coach. Thank you very much for joining us here on Youth Center. Very worrying trend that is currently being witnessed. But anyone who's been in this country knows that this is not the first time we are witnessing such a trend. What are students trying to communicate from where you sit?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And what we have is actually a sad state of affairs in our country. We thought that as we proceed on and get adjusted, thinking that the students would get a little bit comfortable with their learning process when they went back, and especially for those who are preparing for the exams, Form 4s. And we are seeing so many schools getting to that state whereby we have so much that is happening, and especially when it comes to the school unrest. And this is why it's very important for us to focus on what could be happening with these young people. And when you think about the whole scenario, this is a communication from the young people, trying to say that all is not well. And we had actually predicted that the aftermath and the effects of the COVID-19 were unseen there before. And what we had come across, it was nothing, that we should have been prepared for. And this is why what is happening around is just an effect and an impact of what COVID-19 has actually brought us. Remember, when you talk about this particular pandemic, there's a lot of disruption when it comes to the routines. And we have seen this happening in schools, whereby the school term, the schedules have been squeezed so much. Students, they feel like, they don't for themselves to unwind with the extracurricular activities. And that's why it's very important for us to ask ourselves, what should we do to ensure that we salvage the situation?
But like I began by mentioning, this is something recurring. In fact, some have said that this almost always happens on the second term. This time round, of course, there have been massive disruptions in the education sector due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But it has happened before. What does this speak to?
Yes, when you talk about second term, this is just a few months to the end of the year exam or even the final exams, especially with the KCSE. And we have noted that most of the students are actually unprepared for these particular exams. And that's why most of them who have that ideology
All right, we seem to be having a technical challenge with Kagondo Jr., who's a counseling psychologist, speaking to us on the current unrest currently being witnessed across across schools in the country. So Kagondo, let me come back to you. My apologies for that technical hitch there. But you are making a point on why second term is crucial and why these school fires of such unrests keep being witnessed in the second term. All right, technology is not in our favor today. Kagondo, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. I'll let you finish your point on why the second term is crucial and why we continue to witness such unrests, especially during the second term of the school calendar.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, what we were saying is the second term is just a few months to the end of the year, and especially when you look at when they'll be doing their final exam. And you'll figure out that most students are not actually prepared for these exams. And that tells you that most of them will be looking for that reason why they should be, considered why they have not actually performed well. So that tells you that even at home, there's a lot of pressure, and especially from their parents, their sponsors, their guardians, their caregivers, to perform extremely well. And when you look over time, most of the times that they don't have good, the students don't have good time management skills, Some have actually wasted a lot of time in the course of the year, forgetting that by the time that they get to Form 1, they'll be sitting for the exam at the end of the 4 years. So most of them have actually come out, to say how unprepared they are. And you see, that is a communication that most of them are looking for a reason why they should be allowed to perform on an average level. And that's why we need to be very careful, and especially with the demands, the pressures that we give to these young people, especially with their performance.
So then if that is the case, what is to blame? Is it our education system? Is it a bit too much for the students, that they cannot handle it, that we continue to see this recurring? Is it our approach? What is it that we need to do to avert this?
When you look at the way out of it, and I'm so happy with what the government is doing, doing away with the performance, looking at who is number one, and we're going towards the direction of the CBC, where everybody is accommodated with their talents and gifts. But on the recent, you find that we are all to blame. Why? Because the level of success, or the definition of success, has actually been defined by one being number one. Okay, and the demands are so high. So you find that most of the young people are actually unable to meet these demands. The other thing, remember, we're living in a very traumatizing society. Long overdue, from the time we had the Mau all the way to the recent event, you figure out that there's a lot of trauma that we have been exposed to. And what happens is you find that most people, out of it, they get reactive in a way of responding. And these young people are watching. So that means even the adults, the senior citizens in the society, are actually part and parcel of this particular challenge. Why? Because the way that we respond to issues, to challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, at times it is violent. And when you see people out there, especially the adults, rioting, throwing chairs and all that, remember that the young people are also watching. The other thing is we have been trained a little bit too much, and especially trying to adapt with the changes of the COVID-19. And the most amazing thing of what happens is you find that the brain responds in such a funny way. Because when you have been pushed to the corner, the brain actually switches to survival mode. So that tells you when you are unable to manage the issues, the stress that you're facing, and especially for these young people in school, for them, they look for a way out to survive. So we can't say that it's only one particular person, but I can say that the society has actually failed these young people.
Quite a multifaceted problem there. Just hold on. We will be coming back to you, Kagondu. Kagondu Jr. is a counseling psychologist and transformational coach, just speaking to us about the psychosocial welfare of students. We'll be continuing with that conversation when we get back from the break. You're watching News Center. Stay with us.